Welcome back to Born for This Stories, where we speak the truths no one told us, so you don't have to carry this alone. Some stories take our breath away, not because they're tragic, but because they are so full of life that you feel every heartbeat of it. Today, we are sitting down with Dr. Susan, a chiropractor and mom whose journey took an unimaginable turn. Just 13 days after adopting her daughter, Emme, she found out she was pregnant. When her son, Benny, was born, he was diagnosed with Down syndrome. Susan's story is one of surrender, resilience, and deep knowing that every child arrives with purpose.
Can you start off by telling us about your family, who's around the dinner table these days, and just give us a little rundown so we know who's who, and then we'll go from there.
I'm Susan Nacarado, and I have a son with Down syndrome. His name is Benny. I also have a daughter. She's also 10. Her name is Emme, and I'm married to a wonderful man. And we have just this wonderful little family most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time.
That's normal, right?
Oh, yeah. You have a pretty incredible timeline with how your parenting journey began. Can you share that with us?
Sure. Well, my husband and I, we dealt with infertility for several years, and we did everything that we could to have our family naturally. And then so we chose to adopt. So we got our daughter at birth, and her name's Emme. She's 10 now. And so we're super fortunate. We've had a wonderful adoption experience. Still in touch with her birth mom to this day. She sees her a couple times a year.
That's so cool.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. And so when she was, after 9 years of infertility, we adopted our little girl. And then when she was 13 days old, we found out we were pregnant with our son.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was kind of a shock. Honestly, to be honest, I was completely pissed off at God. I remember standing in the dining room, like, now, are you serious? Now?
Yeah.
I have a 13-day-old she was a challenging infant. She had, looking back, she just went through a loss, but I couldn't have wanted her anymore. But being a first-time parent was very, very challenging with the kind of baby that she was. So I was already overwhelmed, as any new parent is.
Yeah.
And then here I am finding out I'm pregnant with our son. So
yeah. I mean, I couldn't even imagine just remembering the early phases of like infancy, of being like exhausted and tired, but then also doing that at the same time as growing another human.
Yeah, it was crazy. When we were in the hospital getting her, because we were there when she was born, I came out of the bathroom and I told my husband, like, it's so weird. My body's physically responding to getting a baby. This is so crazy. The different female changes that happen when you're pregnant, but I had zero clue I was pregnant.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing. You hear about it, you hear about you adopt and you get pregnant. And I just never thought in a million years that would be our story.
Right. Oh, that's so wild. That is so
And I was 39 when I got pregnant, by the way. So
yeah. Listen, I talked to a patient the other day that was 42, and I was like, you go, girl. Like,
she's pregnant.
Yeah.
Oh, good for her. Oof.
I know.
I never want to do that again, but
yeah,
I'm grateful.
That's how I feel too, but
I'm grateful to have had the experience, and it was the way our family was meant to be made. But we decided while I was pregnant that if we ever wanted another child, we would adopt another one, because I was never doing that again.
Yeah. Was your pregnancy a little like up and down? Were you sick a lot, or?
Yeah, I was really sick, and I had a newborn. So especially in that first trimester, I was very, very sick and had a newborn. And that was, as you can imagine, you just do what you have to do.
Yeah.
What I've learned after he was born, you do what you got to do. You put your head down and just get it done. You don't really have a choice.
Oh yeah. Pure survival mode that first year of life, for sure. No matter what you go through. So I definitely understand from that perspective. So what was it like to be going through this journey? Obviously you have a new baby, you adopted Emme, and we're pregnant now. and we're getting to the end. And then take us to the time that your son was born.
Sure. Um, well, we didn't know until he was born that he had Down syndrome, and we had, I went through all of the ultrasounds and such. I did decline any of the screens because of my age, and it was the first time I'd ever been pregnant. I didn't ever want to risk with an amnio having a miscarriage because there's that risk. So and honestly, I just thought everything was fine,
Yep.
and and it didn't matter to me anyway. If so, it just didn't matter. I thought it didn't matter
Right.
until it did. Yeah. And so then had a pregnancy, had a C-section, and after 24 hours of labor, it was rough. It was really rough. And then when he was born, I remember I was, on the table and my husband was next to me, and I remember looking like, oh, look what we made.
Mm-hmm.
He looks Asian.
Oh.
And I kept saying over and over, like, it's so weird. Look at his eyes. He looks Asian. It's so weird.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have those kind of eyes, and zero clue. And the
Yeah.
whole room was completely silent. And I didn't realize that. My husband did at the time, but I just had a baby. So, and
Right.
he was perfect. And then, so he was whisked off right away to the NICU. And then it was a couple of hours later that, again, in recovery, and I literally just kept on saying, that's so weird. Did you see his eyes?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of funny now looking back, because the nurse that we had in recovery, she was of Asian descent, if that's even the politically correct way to say it. And so I thought that she might have been offended because I kept saying he looked Asian. She was quiet because she knew what they all were suspecting.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
almost too like, as I hear you tell the story, like innately, like in your gut, did you almost, it's like your body was trying to say, like something's different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah,
Yeah.
that definitely could be the case.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
It also sounds like too, and maybe you can speak upon this wherever it fits into your story, that like the medical staff knew they had an indication, but they didn't say anything right away.
Right. Yeah, they did not. Nobody said a word. It was
Oh.
completely silent in the room. And then a couple of hours later, well, to me, it felt like a couple of hours. It might have been longer, it might have been shorter, but
Mhm.
the doctor came in. Sorry, I'll probably cry.
It's okay.
Told this,
And
I've
you can
told this
take your,
story 1,000 times.
I know, trust me,
Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
it.
So the doctor came in and asked everyone to leave except my husband. And then we knew, like, uh-oh, what's going on? And that's when she told us she suspected he could have Down syndrome. And I was still in recovery. So I still,
Mhm.
I'd come out of anesthesia. So it was really, really, really hard on my husband.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
I can imagine he's probably carrying the weight of most of that because coming off the anesthesia and the meds and being in recovery, you're like up and down and in and out. And
Right.
he's
Yeah.
the strong, like coherent one through the whole process. And
Right.
that's a
Right.
heavy load to receive no matter what. And to have your partner recovering as well, as it has to be difficult.
And with no
Yeah.
warning, like you said,
Mhm.
that not doing
Zero.
ultrasounds and different things, it didn't seem like a big deal. But having a warning might have, who knows, it might have made things a little easier
Yeah.
just knowing what
My
was going on.
my friends that have kids with Down syndrome that had prenatal diagnoses, I remember one of them saying, Susan, you're either a hot mess during your pregnancy or you're a hot mess after.
Sure.
So, either
Yeah.
way, I think it wouldn't have been easy. But yeah, that's just the way it was.
Yeah.
So,
When they came in and sat like with you and your husband, the doctor, and told you about the possible diagnosis, was there any support like through that time, or was it almost like they came in and they dropped a bomb and were like, bye?
yeah, we had a wonderful doctor. I never felt like they just left, but I guess they kind of did. I knew she cared, and
Yeah.
you could tell she was having a hard time delivering the news to us too.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, you're kind of on your own.
Yeah.
It's, and I think they leave you to your feelings and to process it and everything too. Honestly, I don't necessarily think that they probably have a whole lot of training in delivering those kind of things, perhaps. I think the medical community has a long way to go with delivering it softly, but, with they just delivering news that nobody necessarily wants to hear and not knowing how whoever's receiving that news is going to respond to that too. So they have a hard job. I
Sure.
can't imagine. I can't imagine having to say those things to a family. And
Yeah.
Down syndrome, it's a significant diagnosis, but he was going to live, right? Imagine
Right.
having,
Right.
or something more medically complex or something. So
Yeah.
they do have a hard job, but I do think that they could work on their delivery, the way they deliver.
For sure.
After talking to a lot of my friends that have the way they received their diagnoses.
Yeah. Yeah. I can agree with you there.
It's a
No,
story we've heard a lot.
yeah, no need to say more.
That's the story we typically hear.
Yeah, about everything probably, right? Like
Yeah.
doesn't matter the diagnoses.
No.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just like
Yeah.
a lack of support. And then most, especially moms feel like, okay, well, now I have this information and I don't even know the questions to ask, like almost like they should provide, they should be prepared and say like, hey, these are the most common concerns from other parents that are in your shoes. Like, let's at least have a sheet of paper we give you, and walk
Yeah.
you through it and give you a support group or something like that. But like you said,
Yeah.
it's gonna hopefully they'll evolve over time and there's a little bit.
I hope so.
Yeah, we need to bridge the gap some for sure. When
Yes, agreed.
How long was your son in the hospital for?
He was just in the NICU for 10 days. The breathe, suck, swallow reflex was, we were trying to get him to feed. And, but, compared to a lot of people, that's nothing. But for us, I had never done it before. And so
Mhm.
if you've experienced the NICU, they have these care times. So you go every few hours and be with your baby, and then they have the turnover or whatever. So it was definitely challenging. And they let me stay in the hospital for 5 days. I don't know how they swung that, but probably because I had had a C-section, they could
Mhm.
justify me staying.
Right.
And my husband went home, of course, to be with our daughter.
Yeah.
So
From there, I'm imagine they're probably running different tests and things like that too, just to make sure there's nothing additional going on. Um, I'm assuming all that came back normal.
yeah, so we had 5 ultrasounds in when I was pregnant because they were watching a brain cyst and something on his kidneys, which was also part of the reason why I didn't think anything was wrong because usually they pick up on some physical markers on ultrasound that
Right.
could clue in that there's something amiss. But he didn't have any of those. And so they ran, I remember the neonatologist coming in and saying, this is what we suspect. I'm like, well, how can you tell? I knew nothing, zero, nothing. I had one friend that had a child with Down syndrome. And then in a previous office, we had a young man do he worked in the office doing things in our office. And so I knew
Yeah.
2 people with Down syndrome. And so I knew nothing. Or even what to look for. And now it's so obvious. I can see it from across the room with
Yeah.
an infant or a child or an adult. So he went over that. He's a scientist. I think he's definitely not someone that should be talking to patients very often
Right.
about
I
the
get that.
babies. But so when we were leaving the NICU, they had sent in the blood work or whatnot to determine the karyotype, and we literally were walking out of the NICU when they said, "Oh, we just got your test back, and he does have Down syndrome." So we had him in the little carrier. We're literally walking out, and they found out. So I don't know how long it usually takes to get a karyotype back, but it took us 10 days.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's
yeah,
still a significant amount of time to be inside your brain wondering.
yeah, sure, yeah, yeah. I was just worried about him feeding during that time, and so I desperately wanted to breastfeed, and that story didn't go the way it was planned. But um, yeah, yeah. 10 days in the NICU, which, looking back, it was very, very hard, but compared to other stories, it was basic. It wasn't, he wasn't in trouble, he wasn't medically fragile.
Right.
In fact, they called him Big Ben because he was 7 pounds, 8 ounces. And most babies in the NICU are much smaller. And so
Yeah.
they called him Big Ben.
Yeah. It's a normal size baby right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so okay, let's go back to then we get home, you have a 1-year-old, right?
Mhm.
And
She was 8.5 months.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, not even one. And then
Yeah.
new baby doing
Mm-hmm.
this for the first time. How did
Mm-hmm.
what were those days like?
Oh gosh, it's such a blur,
Oh yeah.
honestly. Yeah. We literally were just surviving. There was no thriving going on in our house during that time. I mean, we
No
were
doubt.
thrilled, but we were still, those days we always say that now we went underground for about 3 months.
Hmm.
Um, those days they were really hard.
Yeah.
Um, just dealing with what it all meant, you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah.
Um, Harder for my husband, I think, than it was for me because I was just so focused on keeping this child alive and,
Hmm.
you know, but we say now, and we had a lot of I'm very open about the dark thoughts that we had at that time. I think it's important to acknowledge those,
Yes.
and that they're normal.
Hmm.
Maybe not everybody experiences them, but I remember when how when you leave the hospital, they have to walk you out. And the guy
Hmm.
said, he walked us out and he said, well, congratulations. And I remember thinking, for what?
Right. Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I just feel so bad about that still to this day because there's my baby and I'm, thinking, why are you telling me congratulations?
Right.
So,
Right.
so those were some pretty dark days,
Yeah.
but yeah,
And I appreciate your vulnerability and sharing that because that's one thing that makes, this movement so impactful is that you speak those words, another probably mom, but even dad is going to listen to this and be like, "Oh my God, I'm not alone feeling that way." Because you
yeah,
do feel robbed. You do feel like all the things like for what? Why me? Why him? Why her? What did I do? What did they do? And then we think that that's not okay.
right, right. I had a friend, the one that has the son with Down syndrome, and I sent her a message. She's a friend from high school, so she wasn't someone that I like kept in touch with a ton. Um, but I sent her a message on Facebook and said, "Hey, this is our story. Would you be willing to meet?" And her response was, "Sorry,
It's okay.
gosh, I've talked about this so many times. It's kind of crazy that tears come up." Um, she said, "You tell me when and where, and I'll be there." Like she
Mhm.
dropped everything because she knew how hard it is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
she's a
Uh,
little angel that is still in our life.
yes. Yeah. I love that for you. I had someone similar for me, and it was very impactful and helpful. And I just remember sitting across from her, and I think I cried for like 3 hours. And I was just like, in a coffee shop, didn't care who saw me. I was just like,
Right?
how am I going to do this?
Yes.
Like I know nothing, and you're the only person. I only happen to know her because of like a connection like through my office, and so that's just so wild, right? And we just happened to come together. So those early supports are so vital
Yes. Yes.
with
Very much
coping
so.
and
And
analyzing and
you
moving.
you don't even realize it unless you're going through it, just
Mhm.
how, or even looking back
Mhm.
and just the gratitude that I have for that time from her. And she stopped her life to come be with us,
Yeah. Yeah,
So, yeah, eternally grateful to Mary.
for sure.
And
Do you guys still are you guys still in contact now?
yeah, yeah, not so as it was. We were definitely more in contact in the earlier days when I was
Yeah.
trying to figure out the medical stuff.
Sure.
She kind of helped me navigate that some, I guess. You find it, I don't know your experience, but we're pretty much feels like we're kind of on our own to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty hard. It's still to this day, trying to make sure that he gets the support that he needs, that we're very fortunate medically. I shared with you that he's not medically complex
Right.
other than Down syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of kiddos with Down syndrome, they have the heart stuff, they
Right.
have other comorbidities, but
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't. And we're lucky. They did tell us when he was 5 months old that he was profoundly hearing impaired.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that was a whole nother journey,
Sure.
you know, and like, oh gosh, he has Down syndrome and he can't hear. What does this mean? And I remember we took the kids to a children's museum, like a children's play area, and we're waiting for them to open. And I look around and there's probably 20 kids with hearing aids or cochlear implants. And I was like, what is going on? And it
Oh,
was during this time that it took a year to find out that he wasn't hearing impaired. For whatever reason, that was a weird ride too. But I realized looking around, like, oh my gosh, these kids are normal,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like they're living a normal life. And it happened to be a field trip it's in our town. It's called the Hope School. It's a school for hearing impaired children. And so I just feel like God put that there to just make it okay. Like, even if he is deaf, that he can still live a really wonderful life because they were just being kids.
Yeah. Oh, I know. To be a kid, not phased by society quite
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's a gift, I think. Thank goodness.
Agreed. I could not agree with you more.
Just for my clarity, you said that the doctors told you that he was severely hearing impaired, but then later you found out he is not?
Yeah. Right. Isn't that weird?
Wow.
I honestly, it's still kind of a blur as to why it took an entire year. And that was with, they do all those little tests, and, he's an infant, and he was 5 months old when they told us he was severely hearing impaired. And he did get hearing aids when he was 2, just before he turned 2. And that was a disaster. He wouldn't keep them in for more than 10 seconds. And so
Yeah.
we kept them for about 10 weeks. And literally, I thought I was going insane. And I called the doctor and I was like, would I be the worst mom ever if I just returned these? And she said, no, some people do that. It was impossible for him to keep them in.
Yeah.
It would have been different, I think, had he had them as an infant and it was just normal for him. But he was a 2-year-old or almost 2-year-old at the time, and he would just take them out as soon as they got in. And so we returned them. And I guess we would have known he wasn't profoundly hearing impaired at that point. It's kind of a blur. Sorry, I don't really fully remember the
So,
whole timeline of that. But I just remember, like, oh my gosh, what is this going to be like? And he has like maybe 20% hearing loss now. He doesn't wear hearing aids. You would never know he has any sort of hearing impairment. Strange.
yeah, that is such a interesting little portion of that story for sure.
An emotional roller coaster
Oh
for
my
sure.
gosh, yeah. It's
Yeah.
and as you know, like especially with him being diagnosed with hearing loss at 5 months old, I mean, the younger they are, like it's hard for them obviously to communicate. So to even go through these testings and things like that, can be a little bit difficult sometimes.
Yeah.
For sure. I wanted to kind of go back to feeling, alone more so on like the medical side of like not really providing, we're just on our own to do the research, right? Like, of course, like you had your friend and that was great and awesome. And of course, I know that you're a chiropractor, so you have like more of this like holistic practice as well. Did you ever integrate any of that into like any type of like different holistic modalities into Benny's care?
Yes. It's called TNI, or targeted nutritional intervention. There's actually a chiropractor on the west side of our state that has a child with Down syndrome, and she's really into all of that. She actually has a Facebook page and all of that. She does a lot of different supports.
Mhm.
And so I got connected to the TNI protocol through her. And we did that for a couple of years probably.
Hmm.
And I just got overwhelmed with all of it.
Sure.
And it was a lot of, putting supplements in his bottles and doing all the things. And it just kind of faded out of our life.
Hmm.
And so I don't do a lot of like specifically like natural holistic stuff. I just don't. I don't think I even still feel like I have the bandwidth for it.
Yeah.
Just trying to be a mom and, you know,
Yeah.
right now we're dealing with more behavior type of stuff, not health stuff.
Hmm.
But he was pretty sick as a baby too. He was very, very sick all the time. Um, so I think I was a little more motivated, I guess, if that's the word, do to support him nutritionally in that way,
Yeah.
just because he was always respiratory stuff. He was in the
Yeah.
hospital a couple times with respiratory stuff. So
Mm. Yeah,
yeah,
that's scary all on its own.
yeah. Hmm.
For sure. Yeah, cool. Well, thank you for sharing that as well. Let's talk a little bit about just like over the years. I mean, navigating that space as he grows and you guys grow, and what's your, journey been like over the years? I mean, he's 10 now, so I'm
Yeah,
sure
I
you've
can't
had.
believe it. Yeah, I can't believe it. It goes by so fast. I know they say it, the days are long, but the years are short, but it's so
Yeah,
true.
I know.
I used to hate it when people would say, enjoy it now. Like, dude, I'm just trying to survive.
Yes, I feel you, girl.
And now looking back, as it is a little easier, those first few years were much harder medically because you're still, going to all the appointments. And he was in therapies. He started therapies at 6 weeks old. They connected us. The NICU did do that for us. They connected us with a local early intervention program that was really wonderful with wonderful providers. I still felt like I was going through the motions. I knew nothing, and I was just trusting that they were doing the right thing for my baby.
Yeah.
Um, but we were there for 3 years.
Wow.
Um, so the first few years, and I would, definitely say that to other parents that have infants with Down syndrome, like it gets easier in some ways. I think that's just kids growing in general. It gets easier in some ways and more challenging in others. You just trade one thing for another, it feels like, but you just put one foot in front of the other and you do what you have to do to give your child the best thing, the best chance at having the best life that they have.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the first few years medically were more challenging. At one point, he went to he had respiratory stuff and they did a chest x-ray and they said, oh my gosh, his heart's enlarged. And
Mm.
I look x-rays all the time.
Hmm.
I'm not new to x-rays and I didn't think it looked like anything, but I certainly didn't trust my judgment looking at a heart. I don't look at hearts.
Sure.
We see that on film, but that's not what I'm looking at. And then
Right.
it 4 months. I think it was 4 months to get into the cardiologist. And so then you're worried that whole
My gosh.
time.
Yes, that's horrible. I'm just gonna say it. That's horrible.
It
Ugh.
felt horrible. Thank you. That feels validating.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Um,
just not acceptable.
yeah, it took a long time because there's, pediatric cardiology, there aren't very many of them.
Correct.
And so, yeah, it took that long to get in. And then she said, oh, that's just a heart shadow. Like I literally worried for all that time. And 50% of kiddos with Down syndrome have heart defects that
Right.
usually need surgery around that 5 months to 1 year, I think, is when they do the heart surgery. And here he was, I think he was 2. I knew we were behind to discover a heart defect if
Right.
it
Right.
was. And within 10 seconds of her being in the room, she told us she didn't see anything cardiac, which was a huge relief. But then I was kind of pissed that I had to wait so long to find that out, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
And another diagnosis that was inaccurate for you to deal with mentally and struggle with. I mean, that's brutal.
Yeah, it felt like it at the time. Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
Those aren't things, I haven't really even talked about that out loud much, but yeah, it was. And that's a good way to put it, that because I didn't know any different, right?
Right.
Because I never done it before, so I don't know what's normal, but I'm finding that that's common. It shouldn't be normal, but it's common.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. I agree with you there. What's Benny like today?
He's a little turkey.
I love that.
No, my husband and I both say now that had we known Benny then, we wouldn't have cried a single tear.
Mm.
That's
He
amazing.
has his challenges, but he's his own unique personality, and he's funny. I don't know what the word is. He gets in trouble a lot, and
He's a
we're
boy.
really he's a boy, definitely a boy. Um, he's he's just a kid,
Yeah,
and they're in our community, in our Down syndrome community, we say more alike than different, and it really is true. Definitely the cognitive piece, he's socially is our biggest challenge, I would say, at this point in time, not medically, but most definitely socially.
sure.
Just today, we have a emergency IEP meeting later today to discuss his escalating behaviors at school,
Mhm.
and I ran into another mama last night at a work event, and she's dealing with the same thing with her daughter who's the same age. And so it's nice to know people, which it was what drew me to respond to your thing, that your post about this podcast is, you just feel so alone most of the time.
Yeah, for
There
sure.
are other people, but they're dealing with their own stuff too.
Oh
But it
yeah.
is nice. It feels validating. And, she said something about her daughter socially that I'm like, yeah, yeah, it's hard. And it breaks my heart that when I say, who did you play with at school today? And he says myself,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
and he's like the nicest, sweetest kid, but socially, that my husband hates it when I say this, but that gap is widening. He's 10, and so socially kids know he's different now. Whereas when he was younger, it was much easier because they're all kids, they don't even know.
Right. Right.
But they're definitely more aware now. And so that's our biggest struggle right now, is the social piece, and
Sure.
just making as friends, and fostering those kinds of relationships.
Yeah. I
When
can
you're
see that.
spitting on kids and kicking them, it's kind of hard. It would be hard for them to. He's lashing out. I wouldn't say lashing out, but behaviorally wise, he's being a boy and being physical right now, and doesn't fully understand. But I think he does. I mean, we don't, even as a mom, I don't give him the credit that he deserves. Sometimes I find myself underestimating his abilities a
Sure.
lot. And that surprises me because we have high expectations for him. We don't treat him any differently than we do our daughter. He does
Hmm.
get a little more grace, I would say, just because we don't know how much he understands.
Yeah.
But he's verbal. He can talk. He can
Yeah.
read. He
Yeah.
can write. He
Yeah.
wrote me a little letter the other day. It was the cutest thing.
Oh.
Spelling's all messed up, of course, but he's trying and he can. So, they're behind. He's behind with milestones and things like that, but they get there on their own time, each one.
Sure.
And I'm sure other diagnoses and stuff, they get there on their own time too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's important to note, right? And hold that in your heart and close to you that he'll get there.
He'll get there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have continued support or like like a group that is really good for you to like go and check in with, like as you go through these different years and transitions and milestones to find more of a community? Have you found that over the years?
Yes, we have a local, it's called DS Connections. It's a local Down syndrome connection group. In the first few years, I was much more active in that. Um, but then I feel like less of a need for that, but I know they're there
Sure.
when I'm a part of it's called First Call. And so, like, I just got an email the other day that there's a baby in the NICU in the hospital here, that the parents reached out and want support. So that's my way of giving back, of being the person that Mary was for me.
Yeah.
Even though so that's been I enjoy that, because I know how much it meant to me in the beginning, like that. So we definitely have that, and there's a Facebook group that we can reach out and say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with or whatever. But so yes, we definitely have that. I just probably don't utilize it in the way that I could.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to know that though. Now people know it's out there if they haven't
Yes.
found it already. Oh,
DS Connections Northwest.
yeah.
They're wonderful. Yeah.
They may even meet you.
wonderful.
Well, we definitely appreciate your time. Do you have any other questions? I want to shout out your social medias and stuff too, as well.
No, I don't have any more questions per se. I'm just thankful that you shared everything you did with us, and that I admire what you've been through and how strong you are to get through all that. And so just thank you is what I want to say.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for being real as well, because that's definitely going to connect and help someone that's struggling right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
Well, I don't know how to be any other way. That's just, I'm an emotional creature.
I appreciate
And as far as social media, I'm not super active, not like a lot of people are, but I do have a Benny's Buddies page. I forget to post on it, but it's there.
Yeah, I saw that you mentioned that, so I definitely want to put it out there. So, I mean, it's a good way to like support, right? And have some community. So, if you want to check it out, it's at Benny's Buddies 2015 and Benny with a Y. We can put it in the show notes as well.
Perfect.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. We do
Yes,
appreciate it.
Thank you for having me and letting me share my story and meeting you guys. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Maybe I'll meet you in person one day.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Thank you. You have a good one. Dr. Susan, thank you for opening your heart and reminding us it's okay to feel every emotion because they're all a part of love. If today's episode spoke to you, share this with a friend who needs to hear it and let them know that they're not alone. If you guys want to connect with Dr. Susan on Instagram, you can find her at Barrett Family Chiro and follow her family's journey at Benny's Buddies 2015. And remember, you were born for this.